Direction provides motion and directs the viewer's eye. So anything in your graphic design image that is pointing in a direction or helping move your audience's eye around the graphic design is considered as direction. So direction can be shown in multiple ways. Some of those ways can be with lines and arrowheads. They can be shown with images of directions shown out in the image itself. And it can be implied line of sight, so someone looking off into the distance. This direction can lead the eye by placement of images or information also. So direction can be shown by the way that elements and graphics are actually placed within the design itself. So let's take a look at a couple examples. And here we have an illustration, and you can see there's two kinds of directions going on here, and actually multiple directions, which we can touch on some of them. But the main two is the way that the character's looking. The character doesn't seem to be necessarily staring right at you, the viewer, but kind of maybe past you, as if he's standing on the road looking for a car to pass by so he can point the way. And then, of course, the other is the arrow, pointing into the direction when you're looking at this to your right. And when you're using things like this, such as the arrowheads for direction, you need to be careful because you can guide the viewer's line of sight right off of the page. Because the arrow is pointing to the right and there is wider negative space in that direction and nothing else, there's nothing to stop the viewer from continuing their eyes right off the page and moving on to something else. So a good way to use this design would be to put some type of message that you want the audience to see right next to the arrow on the right hand side where the negative space is. That does two things. It points at what you want them to see, bringing emphasis to that text or image, and it stops the viewer from letting their eyes wander off the page. This example works the same exact way, except it's a photograph instead of an illustration. But here we have the road with some extra marks on it pointing toward an area down the road. And this would be good the same way by adding text or elements in the direction that the arrow is pointing. So you might have an image of your car driving off that you want the person to see, or maybe you have text up there in the sky on the horizon that you want the viewer to read. So this is providing direction by pointing with an actual photograph and asphalt and texture and what have you. So in our examples, you can see here that we have a little bit of direction by the images in the background, such as this flower or reflection of this flower, because it's acting sort of like an arrowhead and pointing down towards at the text. The glasses can also be guiding lines pointing in the direction to help kind of push your eyes back toward the image and also kind of block this arrow direction going downwards. In this graphic design, the same exact concept is happening, except we're using symbols instead of any kind of image or photograph. So this looks like a badge, but it also looks like an arrow pointing down at the text. So it's providing direction that way. And then you have some hierarchy and direction going on with the way that the text is laid out here. Sometimes text is emphasized in the middle, but here it's emphasized at the top and flows naturally downward as if you were reading. So that's also providing direction by the placement. And finally, in this one, you have direction by the implied line of sight. So when you're looking at the photograph in the background, you kind of wander off in the same direction that the person in this photo is looking at, toward that sunrise or sunset, or maybe off into that city. And you kind of get the same sense of mood and feeling that the artist wants to portray in this type of image by letting your eyes go in the same direction that they want you to see. So when you read this text, you might then look at the character and then gaze off in that same direction and think about your vacation. So it's very powerful the way they've done this. So use direction in your designs, especially when you want to specifically point at something. There's nothing easier than sticking an arrow right next to a block of text and saying, hey, look at this. So use those in your designs, and I hope that helps you out.